I thought I knew my wife better than anyone else in the world. Then her phone lit up at 2 a.m. with a Tinder notification, and my entire reality shattered in an instant. I'm Mike, and 5 years of marriage taught me one brutal lesson. The people closest to you are the ones who can destroy you the most completely. 3 years ago, Sarah and I renewed our vows in Bali at sunset. 2 years ago, we picked out names for our future children. 8 months ago, she started sleeping with my best friend. And 4 months ago, I caught them both, in a way neither of them will ever forget. You know that feeling when something's wrong but you can't quite name it? The dinner conversations that end too quickly. The sudden password changes. The way she tilts her phone away when you enter the room. I dismissed those red flags one by one, making excuses for the woman I trusted completely. After all, this was Sarah, the woman who nursed me through pneumonia last winter, who surprised me with concert tickets on random Tuesdays, who knew exactly how I took my coffee after one sleepy morning together in college. What I didn't know then was that while I was planning our future, she and my best friend Eric were planning theirs, at my expense. This isn't just another cheating story. This is about how I uncovered the affair, gathered irrefutable evidence, and confronted them both in a public showdown that left them speechless. But more importantly, it's about what happens after betrayal, when the life you plan dissolves and you discover you're stronger than you ever imagine. Buckle up. The truth I'm about to share might just save your relationship or show you it's time to save yourself. Looking back, the warning signs weren't just visible, they were blinding. The first red flag appeared when Sarah started changing her appearance in ways that weren't for me. New dresses I never saw her wear at home. Expensive lingerie that somehow never made it to our bedroom. Fitness classes she'd leave for with perfect makeup and return from looking surprisingly fresh. When I casually mentioned this, she laughed it off. Can a woman take care of herself without it being suspicious? That question made me feel like the villain in our story. So I backed off. Then came the phone security lockdown. One night, I reached for her cell to order takeout, something I'd done countless times. She lunged across the sofa, snatching at midair with such panic that our friends fell silent. Work privacy, she explained with a nervous laugh. Everyone nodded understandingly, except for Eric, whose eyes remained fixed on his beer bottle. The most revealing moment happened during dinner with friends. Someone mentioned a new restaurant downtown, and Sarah nearly choked on her wine. When pressed about her reaction, she mumbled something about food poisoning from that place. Later that night, I overheard her urgent whispers from the bathroom. He doesn't suspect anything. Just be more careful about tagging locations. When confronted, she crafted an elaborate explanation about a surprise party for my upcoming birthday. I not only believed her, but apologized for ruining the surprise. The location-sharing disappearance was the final alarm I ignored. Since getting separated in Athens during our honeymoon, a terrifying 6 hours before finding each other, we'd always shared locations. Not from jealousy, but from a promise to always be able to find each other if needed. The app keeps draining my battery, she explained, eyes darting to the kitchen ceiling. That night, I installed the same app on my identical phone model and discovered it used minimal power. The first lie I could prove. That realization changed everything. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't paranoid. I was being deceived by an expert, someone who knew exactly which buttons to push to keep me docile and unsuspecting. And I was done being their fool. April 17th. I remember the date because earlier that day, I had purchased tickets to surprise Sarah with a weekend getaway for her birthday. The irony still makes me laugh sometimes, planning a romantic escape while my marriage was already in ashes. 2:14 a.m. My throat burned from the curry we'd had for dinner, a meal where Sarah had casually mentioned she'd be working late the next day. I padded to the kitchen for water, mind already half planning the birthday surprise details. When I returned to our bedroom, everything changed. Sarah's phone glowed blue on her nightstand, screen unlocked and active. She'd fallen asleep mid-conversation, her first operational security failure in months of careful deception. The notification preview froze me in place. New message from Jason. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last time was amazing, especially when you wore that red thing. Still thinking about the hotel shower. My body reacted before my mind could process. Heart thundering, mouth dry, hands trembling as I picked up her phone, crossing a boundary I'd respected for our entire relationship. The Tinder app was hidden inside a folder labeled Work Tools between legitimate productivity apps. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't a moment of weakness. This was calculated deception requiring daily maintenance. Her profile shocked me first. Photos I'd never seen before, taken when I wasn't around. A bio that described her as exploring options and ethically non-monogamous. There was nothing ethical about any of this. Dozens of conversations filled her inbox, but one with Jason contained hundreds of messages stretching back nearly 4 months. I scrolled through explicit exchanges, hotel arrangements, inside jokes about my ignorance. He actually thinks I'm working late again. Faced with tears of joy, Sarah had written last Tuesday. Your husband trusts too easily. It's almost too simple, Jason replied. That's why I married him. Sweet but clueless. See you at 7. Each word was a knife. Each exchange revealed a person I didn't recognize, someone cruel, calculating, enjoying the deception. Then I saw his profile picture. The angle was deliberately obscured, but I'd recognize that jawline, that smile anywhere. Jason was Eric, my best friend since sophomore year, my best man, the godfather-to-be of our future children. The man who had hugged me last week at our basketball game and said, hang in there, buddy. Marriage has rough patches, but Sarah loves you. I barely made it to the bathroom before my body violently rejected everything inside it. Kneeling on the cold tile, I made a decision that would change everything. I wouldn't confront them. Not yet. First, I would understand the full scope of their betrayal. I silently returned the phone exactly as I'd found it. Sarah slept peacefully beside me, unaware that the husband she thought was sweet but clueless had just become her worst nightmare. I became someone else during those 2 weeks, part detective, part actor, part stranger even to myself. I created a fake Tinder profile with stock photos from a European model, crafting a persona I knew would appeal to both of them. Finding their profiles took less than a day. Sarah's revealed a person I didn't recognize, adventurous, edgy, looking for excitement outside the mundane. Eric's was even more revolting, boasting about being ethically non-monogamous and skilled at discretion. The irony would be amusing if it weren't so devastating. Their operational security impressed me in its thoroughness. They communicated through a dedicated email account using names I'd never recognize, a prepaid phone hidden inside an old purse in Sarah's closet, a shared Google Doc titled Project Timeline where they synchronized their lies, hotels just far enough away to avoid being recognized, restaurants in neighboring towns where they felt safe from mutual friends. I documented everything methodically. Screenshots, location history from the secret phone I managed to clone, hotel receipts I retrieved from her car, restaurant bills found in her jacket pockets, credit card statements showing charges when she claimed to be working late, a timeline of their meetings cross-referenced with the excuses they'd given me. The patterns emerged clearly. Tuesdays and Thursdays were their regular days, her late meetings and his alumni networking events. They'd been together the night of my birthday when Sarah claimed food poisoning and Eric sent his regrets via text. They'd even spent a weekend together during my business trip to Chicago, in our bed, according to their messages. Left a little something in your nightstand for when hubby's away next week, Eric had texted, followed by a picture too explicit to describe. You're terrible. Smiling face with horns, but I love it. Can't wait until this is our everyday reality, she'd replied. Throughout this investigation, I maintained a flawless performance at home. I smiled through dinners, asked about her busy days with apparent cluelessness, and kissed her goodbye each morning, all while knowing exactly where she was going and who she was meeting. The most surreal moment came during our weekly basketball game when Eric asked how things with Sarah were going while patting my shoulder sympathetically. I watched him text her minutes later from the locker room, just checked on him. Still oblivious. Drinks at 7? I stood 3 feet away, nodding like the fool they thought I was. The hardest night was when Sarah dressed for another work event, applying perfume I'd never bought her. As she checked her reflection, I saw excitement that once was reserved for our date nights. Something in me nearly snapped, the urge to confront her then almost overwhelming. Instead, I wished her a productive evening and promised to leave dinner in the fridge. The flash of guilt across her face lasted only a second before her practiced smile returned. I had enough evidence to end my marriage 50 times over, but ending it wasn't enough anymore. I wanted them to face consequences in proportion to their betrayal. I wanted answers, yes, but more than that, I wanted justice. After gaining access to Sarah's secret email account through a password recovery flaw, I discovered what transformed my pain into pure, cold resolve. They weren't just having an affair. They were meticulously planning a future together on the ruins of my life. Their emails contained conversations about which apartment they'd live in after she left me, whether they should stay in the city or move somewhere fresh, how to handle the Mike situation with minimal drama. Eric, my friend since teenage years, who knew all my vulnerabilities, all my hopes, had been systematically working to replace me in my own life. The revelation that truly broke me happened in my car outside our gym. I discovered a photo of them together at a coastal restaurant 2 hours away, Sarah wearing a red dress I'd never seen, both looking into the camera with unrestrained joy. Eric had written, "Soon we won't have to hide anymore. 56 days and counting." In that moment, something fundamental changed inside me. An elderly man actually tapped on my window, later telling me he thought I was having a heart attack from the expression on my face. I wasn't far from it, but the true devastation came next. They had planned a romantic getaway during my and Sarah's upcoming anniversary weekend. Not anywhere random, at the exact Vermont cabin where I had proposed 3 years earlier. They had even joked about recreating our engagement photos with better memories this time. The calculated cruelty seemed almost incomprehensible. Their timeline spreadsheet detailed everything. May, continue normal relationships while securing finances. June, Sarah to work through issues with me to establish grounds. July 15th, Sarah asks for divorce citing growing apart. July-December, cooling off period where they pretend to be just friends. December, begin new relationship publicly, claiming it started after separation. Next spring, move in together once sufficient time had passed. They'd already divided our friends in a color-coded spreadsheet. Green, Mike's friends, people they would sacrifice. Yellow, our friends, people they believed would accept their relationship. Red, complications, people who might realize the timeline didn't add up. What crystallized my response was finding Sarah's message from just days earlier. Sometimes I feel guilty. Mike really loves me. Eric's response, he'll find someone else. Someone who loves him the way he deserves. We can't help how we feel. Besides, it's kinder to end it now than waste more of his time. That patronizing pity, that casual dismissal of 5 years of marriage, that reframing of their betrayal as somehow doing me a favor, it transformed something within me. I closed my laptop and made a decision. I wasn't going to be the oblivious husband for another 3 months. I wasn't going to be their victim, their punchline, their inconvenience to be managed until their carefully planned July 15th conversation. They had their script, their timeline, their perfect plan. What they didn't have was a contingency for what I was about to do. I orchestrated their downfall with the same precision they'd used to deceive me. Mauricio's Italian restaurant provided the perfect setting, the upscale venue where we celebrated every anniversary, where Eric first met Sarah 6 years ago. I requested table 23, positioned perfectly, visible enough to discourage a scene, private enough for the conversation we needed to have, and in direct line of sight of the owner who had known us for years. I invited Sarah to a special date night with hints about exciting news. Separately, I messaged Eric that I needed his advice on something important and asked him to meet us 30 minutes after our reservation. The symmetry felt poetic, ending their betrayal exactly where their relationship began. I arrived early, dressed impeccably in the charcoal suit Sarah had always said made me look distinguished. I ordered their favorite champagne, not to celebrate, but because I wanted them comfortable, off guard. Maurizio himself greeted me, sensing something significant in my demeanor. "Whatever happens tonight," he said quietly, squeezing my shoulder, "courage, my friend." When Sarah arrived wearing a dress I'd never seen, clearly chosen for Eric's arrival, not mine, something unexpected happened. I felt nothing. No pain, no anger, just clinical observation of a stranger who happened to share my last name. Her surprise seemed genuine as champagne was poured. "What are we celebrating?" she asked, eyes bright with a curiosity that once would have melted me. "Clarity," I answered, maintaining unwavering eye contact. "It's been quite an educational month." We ordered appetizers neither of us would eat. I asked detailed questions about her presentation that day, watching her construct elaborate lies about meetings that never occurred, colleagues who were never consulted. I nodded with apparent fascination, playing the role of adoring husband one final time. At precisely 7:30, Eric arrived. I watched him scan the restaurant, his confident stride faltering momentarily when he spotted us together at a romantic table. The silent panic that flashed between them lasted less than a second, imperceptible to anyone who wasn't looking for it. "Mike, Sarah, what's the occasion?" Eric approached with forced casualness, though sweat had already formed on his temple. His handshake was too firm, his smile too wide. Classic overcompensation. "Please sit." I gestured to the chair I'd positioned so they couldn't exchange glances without being obvious. "I ordered your favorite Cabernet. 2014, right? Good year." The waiter poured his wine with ceremonial precision as silence stretched between us. Sarah's knuckles whitened around her champagne stem. Eric loosened his collar slightly. "So, what's the big news?" Eric asked, taking a nervous sip that left a red stain on his upper lip, blood-like under the ambient lighting. "I've been researching something fascinating," I said, voice calm as I placed my napkin beside my plate with deliberate care. "A case study in betrayal, deception, and poor operational security." I opened the leather portfolio I'd brought and began laying out evidence methodically, one damning piece after another. Screenshots of conversations, hotel receipts, restaurant bills, a timeline of their affair color-coded by location and type of activity, their secret email login page, a photo of the prepaid phone I'd found. With each new document, their faces drained of color more dramatically. Nearby diners began noticing the unusual tableau, the well-dressed couple and their friend, all frozen in some unfolding drama. I maintained the same conversational tone you'd use discussing weekend weather forecasts. I can explain," Sarah began, voice trembling as she reached for her water glass and knocked it over instead. Taken out of context, I finished for her, sliding across messages that needed no context. "Like this discussion about how I trust too easily? Or perhaps you'd prefer to explain this spreadsheet dividing our friends into people worth keeping and people to discard." I saved the Vermont cabin plans for last, my emotional checkmate. Sarah physically recoiled as if struck when I placed those printouts on the table. Eric attempted damage control, reaching for my hand in a grotesque display of false friendship. "Mike, I know this looks terrible, but we never meant to hurt you," he said, voice lowered as heads turned our way. "These things just happen sometimes. We were going to tell you." On July 15th, I finished precisely. After Sarah's promotion, but before your brother's wedding. Yes, I've reviewed your timeline spreadsheet thoroughly. Very considerate to schedule my heartbreak between fiscal quarters. The restaurant had grown uncommonly quiet. Sarah began crying, not from remorse, but from exposure. Eric scanned the room nervously, watching his reputation disintegrate in real time. I met their eyes one final time and delivered what I'd rehearsed through sleepless nights. I've already sent everything to our families, your workplace, and our friends. The divorce papers arrive tomorrow. Your July plan has been accelerated to today. Congratulations, you're free to be together without hiding. Isn't that what you wanted? I placed cash for the untouched meal on the table, stood, and delivered one final truth. The most pathetic part isn't the affair. It's that you both thought I was too stupid to notice. That miscalculation ends your relationship with me permanently. As I walked out, several patrons actually applauded quietly. Maurizio nodded with solemn approval. And for the first time in months, I felt something unexpected breaking through the numbness. Not just pain or vindication, but freedom. Like removing a malignancy I hadn't fully realized was poisoning every aspect of my life. That night, in a hotel room across town, I slept peacefully for the first time in weeks. The aftermath unfolded in waves. First destruction, then unexpected rebirth. The social explosion happened within hours. Our phones ignited with messages as the carefully curated evidence I'd sent reached its destinations. Sarah's parents called me first, her father actually weeping as he apologized for his daughter's behavior. "You were the son we always wanted," he said, voice breaking. She threw away the best thing in her life. My phone became a river of support, messages ranging from shocked disbelief to fierce loyalty, offers of spare bedrooms, invitations to dinners, promises to kick Eric's ass that I politely declined. The outpouring revealed something I hadn't realized. I wasn't as alone as their betrayal had made me feel. Their carefully planned division of friends backfired spectacularly. Instead of the clean break they'd spreadsheet engineered, Sarah and Eric found themselves largely isolated. Even mutual friends who had known Eric since childhood chose sides, and rarely theirs. As our friend Jenna told me later, if they could lie to you for months while looking you in the eye, they could do it to any of us. The physical aftermath hit with unexpected force. I lost 15 pounds in 2 weeks as my appetite vanished completely. Sleep became an elusive luxury, interrupted by dreams where I was still the oblivious husband. Panic attacks ambushed me in ordinary places, the cereal aisle at the grocery store, midway through client presentations, while pumping gas on sunny afternoons. I moved into a hotel that first week, then a sterile apartment with generic furniture that held no echoes of betrayal. The blank walls and empty closets mirrored my emotional state, a canvas scraped clean, painful in its emptiness, but ready for something new. The turning point came unexpectedly. I was sitting in my car at our favorite hiking trail one Saturday, unable to exit, unable to enjoy it alone, but unwilling to surrender another place I loved to their ghost. I called my brother from that parking lot and finally broke completely. "I don't know who I am without her," I admitted, sobbing for the first time since childhood. His response changed everything. "Then it's time to find out. Maybe that's the gift hidden inside this nightmare." A gift. The concept seemed absurd then, but slowly it revealed itself. I found a therapist specializing in betrayal trauma. Dr. Kaminsky helped me understand that my methodical documentation hadn't just been about evidence. It was my mind's way of maintaining control when my emotional world imploded. "You turn detective because victims don't solve cases. They just suffer through them," she explained. "You refused victimhood from the start. The rebuilding happened in deliberate steps." I reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my marriage, people who knew me before I was half of Mike and Sarah. I adopted Bandit, a one-eyed shepherd mix who needed me as desperately as I needed him. His unwavering loyalty became my daily reminder of what genuine connection feels like. I rediscovered abandoned passions, rock climbing, photography, cooking elaborate meals just for myself. Activities Sarah had subtly discouraged as taking time away from us. I traveled solo to Seattle on a whim and felt the first authentic peace in months while watching the sunset from a ferry crossing to Bainbridge Island. My apartment gradually transformed from generic space to personal sanctuary, colors Sarah would have vetoed. Furniture arranged for my comfort, not aesthetic approval. Books displayed proudly instead of hidden in a spare room. Small freedoms that collectively represented something profound. I was reclaiming my identity, my autonomy, my future. 6 months of intensive healing taught me the most crucial lesson. Their betrayal didn't define my worth. The obsessive questions, what did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? Gradually lost their power. I realized their choices reflected their character flaws, not mine. Their affair wasn't evidence of my inadequacy, but of their moral bankruptcy. When a job offer arrived from Seattle, it felt like confirmation of my new direction. I bought a small craftsman house with a yard where Bandit could chase squirrels. I made friends through work, climbing gym, and neighborhood gatherings. I eventually started dating again, cautiously but with genuine openness. The pain didn't disappear, it transformed. It became wisdom about relationship red flags, deeper appreciation for authentic connections, and an unshakable understanding of my own resilience. As I told my new friends in Seattle, I wouldn't wish that experience on anyone, but I also wouldn't trade who I've become because of it. That's the unexpected truth about betrayal. Sometimes what's designed to destroy you becomes the foundation for a stronger, more authentic life instead. Trust, once shattered, never reforms in quite the same pattern. But what emerges from those broken pieces can be something far more valuable, a mosaic of strength, wisdom, and self-knowledge that no external betrayal can ever fracture again. Today, 2 years after that Tinder notification changed everything, I'm genuinely grateful, not for the betrayal, but for what it revealed. It showed me my capacity for strength when I believed I was broken beyond repair. It taught me that ending something toxic isn't failure, but an act of self-respect. Most importantly, it forced me to rebuild a relationship with myself that no external betrayal can ever threaten again. If you're sensing something wrong in your relationship right now, that nagging instinct that something doesn't add up, please hear this. Your intuition is your protector. Those unexplained absences, defensive reactions when you ask innocent questions, the growing distance you can feel but not name, they're not coincidences or paranoia. Trust that inner voice before it has to scream to get your attention. Document everything that feels wrong. Screenshots, receipts, dates, times. Not just for potential confrontation, but because gaslighting is real, and self-doubt will try to convince you that you're overreacting or imagining things. Prepare before confronting. Secure finances, arrange living options, and establish emotional support. The avalanche that follows discovery can overwhelm even the strongest foundations if you're standing alone. Accept that healing follows no timeline. You'll feel empowered one day and devastated the next. Both states are valid, necessary parts of rebuilding. The path isn't linear, it spirals upward, sometimes revisiting pain before reaching new heights. Most critically, their choices aren't your failure. Someone else's dishonesty doesn't make you unworthy of honesty. Their inability to remain faithful isn't evidence of your unlovability, but of their broken character. That truth took me longest to internalize, but it made all the difference. Have you noticed warning signs in your relationship? Experience that gut punch moment of discovering betrayal? Share your story below. Not just for yourself, but for someone else scrolling through these comments feeling utterly alone right now. Your experience might be exactly what they need to find their own strength. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications for next week's follow-up, the 7 warning signs I missed that might save your relationship, or show you it's time to save yourself instead. Thank you for witnessing my story. In sharing our darkest moments, we create light for others still finding their way through. Remember, Sometimes the most painful endings become the most powerful beginnings.